Raging west of Jerusalem.
And good morning and welcome to the WSJM Morning Show video live stream for Thursday. I almost said Wednesday, but it's my favorite day of the week, Thursday, but it is the 1st of May. And welcoming into the WSJM studios today, Chuck Jager. He's the executive director of the Morton House Museum in Benton Harbor. Good morning and welcome back to the WSJM studios.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
It's
always a great day to talk about history.
We love history. We love talking about the Morton House Museum. And for those who may not have had the opportunity, maybe a brief introduction. Who is Chuck Jager?
Yeah, so I grew up in the area and went away to D.C. for a little bit. Came back to be a teacher, and for most of my career was a high school history teacher at Lakeshore High School. And so the Morton House Museum is kind of my retirement gig.
and not from the looks of what you shared with me, the schedule does not look like a retired person's schedule. You got a lot going on.
It's a lot going on. It's a busy season, which is good. We've been very active the last few years and really trying to be an important part of the community in Benton Harbor.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the last most interesting new piece of historical information about Benton Harbor that you learned?
Yeah, so we had a lady came in, had deeds about Stephen Busby, who, based on those deeds, I think was the first African-American in Benton Harbor.
Really?
1864.
Okay.
And he bought land from Stern Brunson, one of the three founders of Benton Harbor, sold it to the First Congregational Church, which is the first church in Benton Harbor.
Wow.
Right on Main Street where the old Liberty Theater was.
Wow.
Yeah, that was cool to see those old deeds.
Yeah, it sounded like you were prepared for that question, but I did not prepare him, I promise. But you did say you had some surprises today, so I suppose that's one of them.
That was one of them. Yeah,
okay.
It was a great morning to talk to her and find out about that. So.
How does that happen? How does somebody come forward with that information?
In this case, she is related to Stephen Busby.
Okay.
And so, as people often do, they do the genealogy, do the family history.
Okay.
And so she was going through some different things and found these deeds online.
Wow, and brought them forward.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's great. So where are they now?
The deeds I think she just found those online.
Okay.
So she didn't have the actual copy,
but they must be somewhere.
Yeah. It was great for us because we
Did people ever destroy deeds?
I hope not, but they get destroyed.
Okay.
Fires and get thrown out and stuff.
All right. Hold that thought. Yep. We'll tell that full story. That's coming up here in just a couple. We're just giving exclusive content to our video listeners here.
That's great.
So we'll tell the full story. It's coming up in just a few minutes. We have some news to get to. We'll also do the weather forecast, and we're wrapping up ABC News right now. So we'll be right back on the video live stream. If you want to join us or ask questions about some of the history of Benton Harbor, you go beyond Benton Harbor, but primarily Benton Harbor.
Primarily Benton Harbor. That's our focus.
Okay. We'll just ask your questions in the video chat, and we'll see what we can get to. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Back in a minute.
$1,000 in cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
It is the WSJM Morning Show for Thursday, May 1st, 7:05 a.m. Good morning. I'm Ken Lundberg. I've got Chuck Jager here in the studio with me. He's the executive director of the Morton House Museum. And so this hour, we will be talking about some of the great things that the Morton House Museum has going on this year in 2025, now and in the coming weeks and months, but also some surprises. And in fact, we've already revealed a little bit in our exclusive content on the video live stream of some of the surprises that the museum has come upon and how you can learn more about Benton Harbor's history. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes with Chuck Jager, Executive Director of Morton House Museum. Temperature out in Benton Harbor right now, we're looking at 52 degrees and some clouds, maybe a couple of raindrops here and there. St. Joseph, you can expect rain in the next hour. You've got 52 degrees. South Haven, it's drizzling, 50 degrees there. In Dowagiac, expect rain to start up and continue for the next hour, 51 degrees there as well. The forecast for today, mostly cloudy. We do have that 80% chance of showers and thunderstorms today hanging around, high around 70 degrees. The winds are going to be out of the south. That's where the rain is coming from. They're going to be around 10 to 15 miles per hour, but gusting up to 30 miles per hour. Tonight's forecast, partly cloudy, a 20% chance of showers remains. Low overnight around 47. Tomorrow, Friday, partly cloudy, another chance of showers, high around 63 degrees. Saturday and Sunday, partly cloudy skies both days, a chance of showers, just a slim chance. The lows overnight are going to be around 40 degrees, so it's going to be a little bit chilly. But on Saturday, we should warm up to almost 60 degrees, maybe the mid-50s. And then on Sunday, we'll probably get up to around 65 degrees. Some of the news that we're following from the WSJM newsroom this morning, the city of St. Joseph will be contracting out some of its rental unit inspections. This follows action this week by the city commission. At their regular meeting, commissioners heard from Community Development Director Kristen Gunderson, who said the city started its rental inspections program back in the 1970s. She said originally the fire department used to handle those inspections, but then it was transferred to the Department of Public Safety. Gunderson said it's a burden now on officers, public safety officers, who often have to stop inspections to respond to emergencies. Now, the idea of hiring a contractor came out of recent union discussions.
They would be willing to give up their $1,000 stipend not to do this program anymore. With that said, the inspection department looked into doing a third-party contractor, very similar to plumbing, electrical, and mechanical contractors.
Gunderson said by hiring a contractor, the city could save on vehicle costs, benefits, and lost police productivity. Commissioners agreed. They also approved a new fee schedule for the inspections. So the inspections will now cost $75 for the first unit and $40 for each additional unit you might have. The city inspections department will continue handling the inspection of large apartment buildings. Down below the bluff at Silver Beach, you might have seen some construction and dirt piles near the Whirlpool Compass Fountain. Well, City of St. Joseph officials say that's progress you're seeing, but it also means the popular attraction will not be opening on time on its traditional date this year. St. Joseph Public Works Director Greg Grothaus tells us the ongoing improvements at the attraction have delayed the traditional May 1st opening.
We really were optimistic and hoping that we would have it open as close to May 1st as possible. We are very close. I can't give you an exact date of when it will be open, but we're pretty confident it'll be open for sure by Memorial Day.
Grothaus says the reason for the delay, supply chain issues.
There was a key component that was delayed in getting here. It is on site. It has been installed, so we can really ramp up connecting the pipes to get things put back together.
Grothaus says the city is adding a new restroom facility, a new access path, drinking fountains, foot wash stations, shade structures, and signage for the fountain. He expects the Memorial Day target for getting the fountain open and operating will be reached, but if you go down to the Whirlpool Centennial Park today, you can see some of the construction. You just won't see the jets shooting the water. And finally, Unit 1 of the Cook Nuclear Power Plant is back online, having completed its latest refueling outage. Cook plant officials say the outage started on March 22nd, and Unit 1 was reconnected to the transmission grid on Wednesday afternoon. Cook plant spokesperson Joe Callahan told us last month there were a few major projects on the agenda for this most recent outage.
The replacement of the motor on our reactor cooling pumps. So the reactor cooling pump is a critical part, a critical component, and it's responsible for circulating the primary coolant through the reactor core.
Crews also did regular maintenance work, inspected the main turbine and main generator, and replaced some battery systems. It took a lot of extra contractors, they said, to get on site and get all the maintenance work done in just 39 days.
We have about 1,000 or so additional contract workers here on site at Cook that are assisting our regular plant staff with this refueling outage.
You like numbers? Here's what they did. During the outage, about 12,500 maintenance, inspection, and equipment jobs, totaling 179,000 work hours, completed through 2 daily 12-hour shifts. Now, if a train is going at 5 miles per hour, no. Anyway, American Electric Power Vice President and Chief Nuclear Officer Kelly Furneaux says this was another very successful refueling outage. And throughout the outage, Cook Unit number 2, that reactor remained at full power, no issues whatsoever. It's 7:11. It's the WSJM Morning Show for Thursday, May 1st. Good morning. I'm Ken Lundberg. Here with me in the studio this morning is Chuck Jager. He's the executive director of the Morton House Museum. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes after sports to talk about what's happening at the museum this season, this year. That's coming up in just a few minutes. We're going to share some stories right now on the video live stream. So if you're on YouTube or Facebook, you get that exclusive content right here on the WSJM Morning Show. Sports with Dave Wolf.
Javier Baez's 9th career Grand Slam gave the Tigers.
Are you much of a baseball fan, Chuck?
Cubs anyway.
Okay.
I follow the Cubs. So yeah. So it's been a good year so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, except for that fan falling from the stands at the Pirates game.
Yeah, I missed that, but I
That
heard
was-
this morning. Yeah.
That's
Wow.
horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. It sounds like he fell from the second deck from the,
Wow.
whatever.
Wow.
Anyway, unfortunately in critical condition, but hopefully they make a recovery on that. But thank you for joining us. Morton House Museum. What's the address of the Morton House Museum for those who haven't been by there?
Yeah, we are at 501 Territorial. We're right up the hill above downtown.
So you're at 501 Territorial. If you look down, there's that building that's been vacant for as long as I've been around on Pawpaw.
Correct.
What is that?
It's a city building. I think it was kind of an business incubator building for a while. But
Okay.
actually, that's the site of Little Italy.
Oh,
That is going to be our focus this season. So
Where-
that right down the hill is where the
Chatterbox and
Little
all that
Italy-
stuff?
Chatterbox, which used to be Mamina's Bar.
okay.
So yeah, that's the
Ah.
neighborhood that we're kind of focusing on.
Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about. Let's see. You've given me an outline. This is great. You get the most prepared guest so far of 2025 award.
Well, good.
I love
Is
this.
there a prize that goes along with that?
You get to be on the show.
Oh,
that's the
a
prize.
That's good.
The Little Italy neighborhood of Benton Harbor. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some recent surprises that you've had at the museum. We already shared a little bit on the Stephen Busby deeds. Walking, biking, paddling tours.
Yeah.
What's that?
We've done this the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
So we've got an art and beer tour. So we go and look at murals and
Drink
art
beer.
and sculpture, and then we end up with at the livery drinking beer.
Okay. So you're not drinking beer throughout the tour.
No,
Okay.
no.
All right.
Although we could with that social
district.
you could
Yeah.
you could bring a beer on the tour if you
Might
wanted.
think about it for
Yeah.
2026.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also do a 1950s Benton Harbor walking tour during that. What does the
Yeah.
1950s Benton Harbor tour
Yeah,
consist
that
of?
was one of our most popular last year. Last year we had 55 people on that tour.
Wow.
And we basically go around and show people what was there in the 1950s, which was kind of the heyday of Benton Harbor.
Okay.
And we even had people who remembered and shared, so drive-ins and movie theaters, and
Yeah.
it's a really good tour.
Then you've got also a where just a question on that walking tour. Where does that happen?
Yeah, so we meet at the Benton Harbor Welcome Center, which is at 5th and Territorial.
Okay.
And then we walk around downtown.
Okay. So kind of mostly in the Arts District area?
Mostly, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because as I understand it, there were a ton of hotels there.
Lots. Yep. That was the place to stay.
Okay.
Up through the 1950s or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. Then we have the speaker series that you're going to cover, talking about urban renewal. Samuel, say his last name.
He's an Irish immigrant, so that's McGuigan.
McGuigan.
Yeah, Samuel McGuigan. He's the first village president of Benton Harbor.
Very nice. And then recollections of Benton Harbor with Larry Nielsen.
Yeah, Larry Nielsen was a former Benton Township supervisor, grew up in Benton Harbor, and he's going to share some great stories about kind of the change in Benton Harbor in the 50s, 60s, 70s. There that he experienced.
Okay. And we've got other things to hit as well. Hall Park, Ox Creek Tour, the open hours, and then 100th birthday. Someone is celebrating 100 years young on this planet. So we'll talk about that as well. But it really occurs to me that there's a lot happening in Benton Harbor, and it's important, probably more important now than ever, to remember the history as we move forward. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. Put a pin in that. 7:15 WSJM Morning Show continues. I'm Ken Lundberg. We've got our weather forecast, and then we'll get into our interview.
Through the day, 70 degrees will be our high. Winds will be a little gusty at times. Partly cloudy tonight. We'll see a few scattered showers. We drop down to 47. And for Friday, partly cloudy. A few showers still linger with high temperatures back around 63. We'll hover around 60 degrees for the weekend with slight chances of rain. I'm meteorologist Carrie Pooh.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
Oh boy, already getting questions on the video live stream. I put it out there for anyone and everyone around the community to not only watch the video live stream, but to ask questions. And the first person asking a question is my son Stuart. So we'll get to his question
Very important.
I love it because he's a fan of the show.
That's great.
He joins
and a fan of history, apparently.
And a fan of history as well in the 1900s. So we'll pose that question in just a couple of minutes. So thank you for putting that question in there, Stuart, and setting the example for others. It's 7:16. It's the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg here with Chuck Jager. He's the executive director of the Morton House Museum here in Benton Harbor. The Morton House Museum is the home of Benton Harbor history, and you have a ton of things planned for 2025.
Yeah, it's a busy season, so we're excited about all the different things that are going on.
We were previewing on the video live stream some of the things that you plan to talk about today. So we'll get through as many as we can here, but let's take as much time as well to talk about the history of Benton Harbor, because one of the things, I mean, we report through WSJM and through Moody on the Market, there's a lot happening in Benton Harbor right now, especially in and around the Arts District. I mean, we think about Modern Plastics. That building is going to go away soon.
Right.
That building's going to go away. You've got the Thayer building, which is under major renovation. The plan there is to turn that into lofts and a commerce space and a few other things. They've got 5 or 7 buildings now, the Clement Construction Company.
Yeah, and we've been happy with the Clement folks have come to us to go, hey, we bought this building. Can you tell us something about the history? And we've been able to help them out. So.
I love that. I love that because they want to keep the heritage of what the neighborhood has been.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen the Thayer building in the last couple of days. It's a new building.
Oh, did they pull some of the siding off?
They took the siding off. It's an old historic building again. It's really cool. But I went down the street and there's a new building there.
Wow.
It's actually an old new building.
They have drawings. I'm glad you brought this up. They have drawings of what they plan to do. And what they plan to do from the outside is to restore, because there's sheet metal on the side of the building, or there used to be sheet metal on the side of the building. And behind that sheet metal, you could see it from the inside. Inside the building, you walk around and it's brick, and there are beautiful old windows, and the architecture is there, and the wooden floors and the wooden rafters. It's just gorgeous inside and out.
Yeah.
But it'd been hidden by that sheet metal.
Correct. Yeah. It's exciting. It's an exciting project.
And it's a heck of an investment.
Right.
Because it's not cheap to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're doing some great stuff, Clement.
All right. So we'll talk about, we have Clement on our schedule to come in and join us. So we're trying to work out a date on that. But in the meantime, we've got Chuck Jager here, eyes and ears of Benton Harbor history. Let's start at Little Italy. We have a Little Italy here? We had a
Little Italy. Yeah.
Okay.
So, as the home of Benton Harbor history, we want to tell that story.
Yeah.
And so this is a really important neighborhood. We have a core group. I'll tell you, the Italians are passionate about their history. So it made sense to do this as kind of our season-long theme. So we have a Little Italy exhibit that's going to open up on May 17 and run through October.
Okay.
And then a number of different events. But Little Italy was the neighborhood right below the bluff, right below the Morton Hill bluff there.
Yeah.
And not just Italians, but a whole immigrant community, Russians, Poles, Eastern Europeans, and then also became an African-American community.
Okay.
In fact, a lot of really important African-American families. Mamie Yarborough grew up there. Lula Lee, who was the first woman and first Black person on the city commission in Benton Harbor, grew up there. I don't know if you ever heard of Gene Harris. He was a really famous, nationally known jazz musician, and he grew up in that neighborhood.
Wow.
Charles Joseph, the first Black mayor of Benton Harbor, grew up in Little Italy. So had some different names. It was also known as Little Brooklyn because of all the immigrants, Little Russia, and then also Black Italy, when it became African-American neighborhood. So
no kidding.
A really interesting history.
What time period are we talking about?
Yeah, we're really talking kind of the early 1900s. So probably 19-teens up through about 1980s.
Okay.
When the last houses were knocked down. And now there are no houses left. There are about 100 houses there in its heyday.
And so the area you're talking about is, we talked about Chatterbox, where if people know Chatterbox, if that is your location, if your pin drop is there on the map, where is Little Italy as I'm looking around?
Yeah, if I'm standing in front of the Chatterbox looking north, that's the Little Italy neighborhood. So kind of Pawpaw and Territorial, and then the railroad tracks. And they're kind of the boundaries.
So residential area.
It was a residential area. Yep, houses, and had businesses, but a lot of the businesses were run out of people's houses. So grocery store, a bar, a restaurant, ice cream shop, right out of their house.
Do you have indications of why that became that area?
Well, it's a good question. Italians and Eastern Europeans were kind of looked down upon, and here, kind of figuratively, they're looked down upon, but also literally people looking down from the bluff at this neighborhood. So it was definitely a working class neighborhood, not great houses and stuff. So it was an affordable area. But with immigrants, somebody moves there, and then, birds of a feather, right? You hang out with people who speak your language and know your culture and stuff. So
so this is your theme exhibit for 2025.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and so on Saturday, May 17th, you've got the open house and the opening day. What can people expect with that?
Yeah, so on that opening day, people can come and see the exhibit. We're open from 11 to 2. But beyond that, we're going to have a young singer doing some Italian arias and some African-American spirituals.
Okay.
We're going to have a meatball, and I think it's going to turn into a little bit of a meatball contest. We have some different people bringing meatballs.
Really?
And so I think there's going to be some competition of who brought the best meatballs.
Oh, very.
So it's not an official contest, but I think it may turn into that.
But let's define some parameters here. How do you judge the best meatball?
I think each individual visitor can.
Because we've got flavor, you've got crumbleability.
Yeah.
That new word that we just invented, crumbleability, the size and shape.
Yeah.
And then, did you air fry it? Did you boil it? What'd you do?
So I'm Dutch, so this is not my area. We're
This
not
is not
known
you.
for our meatballs, so we'll have to wait and see. And also outside, we'll have a little bocce ball court, so you can play a little bocce ball and experience some Italian culture.
Just don't get the two mixed up. Bocce balls, meatballs, don't mix.
Don't eat the bocce balls.
Don't eat the bocce balls. That should be the name of your museum book this year. Don't eat the bocce balls.
I like it.
Thursday, June 12th.
Yeah.
What's happening there?
Yeah, so there we're going to have an illustrated talk. So Jager Mamina, who's one of these passionate Italian folks, and he's going to talk. And we're also going to have Reverend William Whitfield, who grew up. He's an African-American minister in town who grew up in Little Italy. So giving that aspect of it. Mamie Yarborough is going to be part of that too. So we're going to get some people who can kind of show us, what that neighborhood was like. We've got, we're going to do a PowerPoint. So show you some of the businesses and show you some of the people and show you maps. And so you get a good idea of what this neighborhood was like.
And it says here, I see another bullet point. My eyes went right to it. More Italian food.
Yeah. I'm hoping for cannoli.
Oh,
we'll see
yeah.
on that. I love cannoli.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Do you have any indications of, so it was Little Italy, and it sounds like that was the predominant ethnicity that was there until African Americans moved in, but you also had the Russians and the Poles. Where did this population go? Where did the Russians go, the Poles, the Italians?
Yeah, I think they kind of assimilated into our local community. So partly moving up the hill, partly moving to places like Stevensville and, surrounding areas.
But they didn't really establish into another community.
No, although there's also a big community of Italian farmers in Riverside.
Okay.
That we see a lot of Riverside folks, kind of towards Coloma.
Okay.
So
Very
if they
good.
wanted to be a farmer, Riverside was the place to be an Italian farmer.
So the exhibit really gets its opening day on May 17th, and then you have the June 12th illustrated talk. Then Friday, June 20th, you're doing a walking tour. Let's talk about that.
So we'll leave from the Morton house and we'll go down the hill and we'll take a look at stuff and we'll have pictures and we'll be able to tell people, right, here's where the Mamina trucking business was and here's where these grocery stores were and different businesses. And so I think it'll be a great walk where we'll be able to actually see it.
So J.R. Mamina is going to be talking on June 12th, but there was a Mamina trucking business. I have to imagine those are related.
Yes. Yeah, that was his grandfather.
Okay.
And then also, I think it's his great uncle ran Mamina Bar, which that building is now the Chatterbox.
Oh, okay.
But originally it was Mamina's Bar.
Oh, look at that.
So, yeah.
Very nice.
Important entrepreneurs in Little Italy.
I would suggest. So those events are coming up Saturday, May 17th. That's the opening. Thursday, June 12th is the illustrated talk. And then on Friday, June 20th, the Little Italy walking tour. And if people want to take part in that, how can they sign up or get more information? What do they need to do?
Yeah, so the best way to go is our website, which is mortonhousemuseum.org, and we'll have details on there. Especially for the June 12 and the walk-in tour, we'll have tickets available on Eventbrite, and also Facebook is a good place to get that up-to-date information. And then there's a link to tickets there too, that if you want to get them in advance. But especially for the walk-in tour, you can come and show up and pay your $10 and join us.
Have a good time. And so on Facebook, just look up Morton House Museum.
Correct.
Okay, very good. We've got a lot more to talk about, some recent surprises that you've had at the museum. So we'll start going through those in a couple of moments. Also, other ways that you can get involved with the museum: walking, biking, paddling tours, the speaker series that you have going on, and a whole lot more. We're talking with Chuck Jager. He's the executive director at the Morton House Museum. We'll continue this conversation right now on the video live stream. We'll get a couple of messages in here. We've got the Bloomberg Market Minute coming up in just a moment, plus ABC News and a tease of our local news, what we're covering at 8 o'clock. That's coming up in just a moment right here on the WSJM Morning Show. Back in just a few minutes on the video live stream. We continue the conversation now.
Have you
Okay, very good. That's fascinating. So a couple of questions on the video live stream, and you started touching on it. Stuart asks, first off, he says, thank you for your time. Very polite, Stuart. Thank you. I
well
appreciate
brought up.
Well, you know. And then he says, let's see, somebody else. Oh, look at that. Mike Weibel says, he interrupted the conversation. Mike Weibel says, Chuck, tell him I said hello.
Yeah, I know Mike. We used to play some basketball together.
Oh, very nice.
So, yeah.
Oh, you were down in Lakeshore with him. Yeah. Okay.
That morning basketball, 6 a.m. Played some basketball.
So Stuart's question: what did life look like in the early 1900s in Benton Harbor? Let's say 1901. What was life like? Anything that would surprise anyone? I mean, I think Little Italy surprises us for sure.
What a great question. Yeah, certainly. One of the things in Benton Harbor, it's industrial. It's a factory town, and lots of thriving factories and businesses you would have seen. So maybe a little bit of smelly pollution from those factories.
What are those factories producing at that time? People might instantly think, oh, well, Whirlpool Corporation. They were just establishing 9 years future, right? 1911?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we were big with, of course, the fruit stuff.
Okay.
So basket companies, pickle and vinegar places would have been big back then.
Okay.
Just from our point of view at the Morton House Museum, one of the things is the Graham and Morton Transportation Company, which brought ships over to Chicago. So they brought fruit over to Chicago and then brought tourists back over here.
Wow.
So you would have seen those big ships coming right into downtown Benton Harbor.
That's unbelievable.
Where the Ghostlight Theater is, that parking lot.
Yeah.
That was the turning basin for the Benton Harbor Ship Canal. So those big steamships would have come right in there, loaded up with fruit, and then taken that over to Chicago.
Was that a man-made canal?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
It's dug in 1860. Okay. And that's what really made Benton Harbor. It's a city because of the canal.
And so when was the decision to fill that back in?
Yeah, so it really started the 30s when we started to get cars. And the big thing is like, we need more parking. And also the ships had kind of gone away with being replaced by trucks and ships. And so the canal wasn't being used much. They needed parking. So they said, let's fill it in. And before they filled it in, they invited people to just throw all their garbage into the turning basin.
You are
just
kidding.
To help fill it up. So sometime in the future, when we dig up that parking lot, we might find a lot of really cool stuff under that.
You say cool stuff, but I hear garbage.
Well, but garbage has like these cool bottles and there's,
very good point.
It'll be an archaeological dig at some point.
That really would. So how wide was the canal?
Yeah, so it started out 40 feet, and then progressively they kept saying we need it wider and wider. Ended up about 100 feet. So if you go to like Clifford's Coffee Canal, if you know that place right on Main Street,
and
it's
across the street from the Whirlpool thing.
Yeah, and Emma Hall, the Emma
right
Hall
in between
apartments,
there.
Right in between there.
Okay,
that's the original width. It's about 100 feet. So you can see what the canal kind of used to look like. On the other side of Riverview Drive, it's been filled in. It's maybe back to about 30 or 40 feet.
Okay.
So.
And so I assume it started as a natural waterway.
Nope.
Never.
No, it was
Okay.
all marshy down there.
Okay.
But it really starts with a dispute where they had a bridge over to St. Joe.
That's right.
Got washed out, and the people of St. Joe weren't interested in rebuilding. So the farmers in Benton Harbor on that side of the river said, let's build a canal and bypass St. Joe, and those ships could come right into downtown Benton Harbor.
I love that story.
Yeah.
And I'm sure St. Joe had nothing to do with filling it back in.
I don't think so, actually. No, we can't hold that against them. So.
All right, fine. We're talking with Chuck Jager. He is the executive director at the Morton House Museum. And Stuart, I hope that answered your question of what life looked like in early 1900s Benton Harbor. So primary occupations of people who were in Benton Harbor at the time?
Yeah, would have been working at different factories and businesses there. It was an industrial town.
Very working class.
Yeah, and it would have been thriving. Benton Harbor was the place to stay, lots of hotels, right? Lots of movie theaters. So that was the place to go to watch a movie. Shopping would have been a big thing also in downtown Benton Harbor.
Yeah.
You know, St. Joe at that point is kind of a sleepy little town. Benton Harbor from like the 1890s through the 1950s is kind of the center of life in Barron County.
Do you know offhand how many hotels there were in, let's say, what is now called the Arts District?
Yeah, right in the Arts District. So 5 or 6 at least.
Wow.
I mean, they're at different time periods and stuff, but there were, over the time period, I bet we have 20, 30 different hotels in downtown Benton Harbor.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll come back. We'll continue this conversation in just a moment. We've got some news to get to and some weather as well as sports. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
Attention to picking up the tab. That stance could lead to standoffs with carriers that aren't willing to pay the surcharges. Jeff Bellinger, Bloomberg Radio.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
7:33 WSJM Morning Show continues. Good morning. I'm Ken Lundberg. Welcome to the first day of May. It's Thursday, one of the best days of the week. The temperature outside in Benton Harbor right now, 53 degrees. We can expect rain in the next hour. It's raining over in St. Joe. That's the report we have. 52 degrees there. South Haven, 51 degrees. Dowagiac, 52 degrees. Raining a good portion of southwest Michigan right now, and that's what we're going to get today. Mostly cloudy skies. Chance of showers and thunderstorms throughout the day, a high around 70 degrees. Winds out of the south, gusting to 30 miles per hour. Tonight's forecast, partly cloudy, a chance of showers, low of 47. Friday, partly cloudy, a chance of showers tomorrow, high around 63. The extended forecast, Saturday and Sunday, partly cloudy both days. There's a 20% chance of showers both Saturday and Sunday, high around 58 on Saturday and 65 on Sunday. The lows overnight each night around 40 degrees. We've got news coming up from the WSJM newsroom in just a moment. We'll preview what we're going to have at 8 o'clock. Right now, though, ABC News.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. Severe weather in the forecast again for the central part of the country. ABC's Jim Ryan says it's just the news the people of Oklahoma didn't want to hear.
In the town of Lexington, south of Oklahoma City.
Everywhere is underwater, pretty much.
Including Natalie Thurston's neighborhood, where the street doesn't really look like a street.
It looks like a boat ramp.
Last month has gone into the record books as the wettest April in the state's history. Oklahoma City's rainfall total of 12.55 inches is about 3 times the normal amount for April.
One of the largest wildfires in Israeli history is burning west of Jerusalem. High winds and hot, dry conditions are fueling it. President Trump blaming President Biden for the drop in the GDP during the first quarter. The U.S. economy shrank 0.3%, the first quarterly contraction in more than 3 years. A Columbia student arrested during his citizenship interview has been released. Mohsen Madawi is a student activist who protested on Columbia's campus last year. This is ABC News.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
7:35, it's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning, I'm Ken Lundberg. I have a special guest in the studio this hour, Chuck Jager with the Morton House Museum. He's the executive director there, sharing a lot of great information. If you're just tuning in, we've already covered when Benton Harbor had a little Italy, which I'm flabbergasted. I had no idea That's fascinating. So what we talked about some of the events that are connected to that, and that is the theme of the Morton House Museum exhibits this year. They on Saturday, May 17th, they're having an open house and an opening day to enjoy a little bit of history as well as some food, some bocce ball. They'll have a singer there as well. That's on May 17th. Thursday, June 12th, they'll have an illustrated talk with some of our notable residents of Benton Harbor. And then also Friday, June 20th, a Little Italy walking tour. You can check out Facebook. The Morton House Museum has information posted there. But we'll continue this conversation in just a moment with Chuck. But some of the news that we have coming up at 8 o'clock this morning, a St. Joseph man unfortunately found dead following a 2-vehicle crash. It happened yesterday in Benton Township. The Benton Township Police Department says it happened on East Empire Avenue between Your Avenue and High Point Drive in the early evening. We'll tell you more about that. It is still under investigation as to what caused that crash. Also in the news, the South Haven City Council is going to receive further information about a proposed lifeguard program. They're bringing it up again early next week at their next city council meeting. They'll be talking about that. And we're told they'll also be talking about the search for a new police chief. That's been in the news recently. And we'll also be talking about St. Joseph's city manager has received a positive performance evaluation from city commissioners. We'll have that report and more coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. It's Thursday, May 1st. We've got news from around the state coming up right now. We also have our local sports with Dave Wolf. That's coming up next.
The Michigan News.
Back on the video live stream, and we're talking about some questions from listeners. Let's see. Michael says, great past, no future, talking about Benton Harbor, going from over 30,000 people down to 9,000. And then he also says the Morton House is great. And so you had some thoughts initially.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's actually the top population was just about 20,000.
Okay.
But it's certainly a decline, but that's the kind of thing that's happened all across the country. We had suburbanization and we had interstate highways that drew people out of the downtowns and things like that.
Yeah.
So Benton Harbor is not unusual in that kind of drop. And it's also not unusual that we're seeing, I think, a resurgence of urban life, especially young people. They love, it's kind of the hip kind of thing to do is to go into urban places. And Benton Harbor, I think, appeals to people in that way a lot. So
yeah, I mean,
I disagree on the no future. I think Benton Harbor has a bright future. There's a lot of cool things going on in Benton Harbor.
Yeah, it'll be a different future for sure.
Sure,
it'll be a different future. And again, you know, as we've been reporting on WSJM and in Moody on the Market, that arts district is really seeing a resurgence.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of investment and a lot of work happening right now as we speak. Again, it's going to be a different future, but it will be a bright future.
Yeah. And it's not a huge amount of people at this point, but people are moving back into Benton Harbor and to downtown. People love those loft spaces, and that Thayer building we talked about, I think is going to have living space on the upper floor.
So when you think about Benton Harbor's evolution and you see current contemporary news as well, I mean, does your mind go to, oh, this is kind of the ebb and flow of how history goes? This is going to be a point in their history.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, things, do go back and forth, but I see good things in Benton Harbor's future. So, and as a history museum, that's kind of our role. We want to, if you don't know where you've been, it's hard to know where you're going. So, that's the role we want to play. We don't want to just be a place that has old stuff. We want to be involved in the community and play a role in that continued revitalization of Benton Harbor.
I'm just asking from
what we're really excited about.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking from a personal perspective. Do you ever geek out as a historian, just look at the news and go, 100 years from now, they're going to look back on this point?
And thought about that, but that might be very cool.
I don't know. It's just it's fascinating.
Yeah, this is where it kind of started. Right?
Yeah. This could be one of those pivotal moments.
Yeah,
and that kind of thing.
Right.
All right. Other things that you have going on, recent surprises you've had at the museum. So we'll share, because it's the video live stream. Let's share some exclusive content. Bullet point number 1.
Yeah. So one of the great benefits of my job is sometimes people call us up or visit out of the blue and go, I've got this great thing for you. And that happened just a couple of times in the last month. So a woman from Oberlin College in Ohio called up and said, we have some letters here that we've transcribed that are addressed to Eliezer Morton, who's the first generation of the Morton family in Benton Harbor. And they were from Sarah Maria Morton, and she married a guy named Thomas Conger. And in 1849, they went out to California on the gold rush. And now we have those letters. And if you read them, they're heartbreaking. So Sarah Maria Conger has like about a year, maybe 18-month-old child. And she essentially carries that kid out west.
Wow.
And they stay over the winter with the Mormons in Salt Lake. And then tragically, the baby dies.
Oh, no.
And then a little bit later, Sarah Maria dies. And they're buried together in the same grave.
No kidding.
Yeah. But just reading these, it's just, I mean, they're just amazing stories. And to have that to fill in, we knew about these people, but to have those letters and just out of the blue, they just tracked us down. And it's really kind of a convoluted way they tracked us down.
Yeah, how did they track you down? Well, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a complicated story, but there was Stanley Morton, the third generation. His wife was Carrie Heath. She had a sister, Florence, and she married an art professor who worked at Oberlin, and they donated a cabinet, and in this cabinet were these letters.
You're kidding.
No.
And you said they had to be translated.
Transcribed.
Oh, transcribed.
So from handwritten
to digital
or typed out.
Okay.
So you can read them more easily. So,
okay. Because they had the fancy script.
Yeah.
Okay.
And often hard to read.
Wow.
So.
Were what is it, the F's or T's or something like that? Or the T's or F's?
The F's look like S's often.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Or the S's look like F's.
That's fascinating. So she went out there. Did she go out there for the gold rush?
I think
or
that's
as part
why
of that?
they went. Yep.
Okay.
As part of the gold rush.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any idea what the child died of?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
I have to take a look at that.
Okay. No, that's fascinating. And are copies of those letters or the transcriptions, are they there at the museum now?
We have the transcriptions, and Oberlin is in the process of sending us like high resolution scans of the actual letters.
That's exciting.
I'm not sure they're going to donate the actual letters to us. I would love that. Museums often
We can start a campaign if you want.
Museums often don't want to give up their stuff,
That's fine.
We can hope. Maybe.
Understandable.
But we're going to get copies of them.
Okay. And in just a moment, I'm going to get this name wrong, I bet. Fatsko.
Fatsko is right.
We'll talk. Well, okay, Fatsko. We're going to talk about Fatsko in just a moment, right here on the WSJM Morning. This is fascinating stuff. Okay, we'll be right back.
Great.
It's the WSJM Morning Show.
And lasting wisdom. Learn more at libertychristianmi.org. Liberty Christian Classical School. Education you can trust.
Mostly cloudy skies today. We'll see scattered on and off rain showers and a few thunderstorms through the day. 70 degrees will be our high. Winds will be a little gusty at times. Partly cloudy tonight. We'll see a few scattered showers. We drop down to 47. And for Friday, partly cloudy. A few showers still linger with high temperatures back around 63. We'll hover around 60 degrees for the weekend with slight chances of rain. I'm meteorologist Carrie Pooh.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
744 WSJM Morning Show continues. It's time for our Moody on the Market update. Our Moody on the Market update is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today. They are your local auto owners insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. And the Moody on the Market update, we cover business updates. We cover life in Southwest Michigan and why we love it here. And also interesting people you should know. And I think we hit 2 or 3 of those buckets by talking with Chuck Jager from the Morton House Museum. He's the executive director there. We've been learning a lot about life in Southwest Michigan decades, hundreds of years ago, and we appreciate the information and how we can get involved with that today to learn more about our area's history. The Morton House Museum is the home of Benton Harbor history. We've been talking about Little Italy, some recent surprises that you had at the museum, and we just talked about on the video live stream some letters that you received from Oberlin College, right? Oberlin,
yep.
Oberlin,
yeah.
That were connected to the Morton House, to the Morton family, and dated somewhere around the Gold Rush. And so you're going to hopefully get copies, high-res scanned copies of those soon. But if you want to learn more about those Gold Rush letters, check it out. It's on the video archive at our WSJM morning show. Go to Facebook or YouTube. And now let's talk a little bit about the surprise that you recently had. Fatsco stove. First off, Fatsco. I feel bad saying it.
So no, you shouldn't.
Okay.
Old time residents or old time, if you're older, you probably remember Fatsco. It was
if you're
quite the
seasoned, a
institution.
seasoned individual,
Seasoned,
yes,
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the Fair Avenue Tin Shop Company.
Oh, okay. Fatsco.
The building is still on Fair Avenue, just north of Main Street. The building's still there.
Which building is it?
It's just a brick building. It's empty right now.
Okay.
I don't think it's being used for anything, but Fatsco made a whole variety of products. One of the things they were most known for is their rat poison.
Oh,
apparently really effective. And
what was it?
I don't know. And I've lived and worked in Benton Harbor for a long time. I've never seen or heard of rats. So maybe it was really, really worked
It's
well.
still working today.
But apparently they also made all kinds of products. And a couple of weeks ago, a woman said, I have a Fatsco stove. And not a big stove. It's about 9 inches high.
Okay.
Apparently for like camping. And she said often people use them on boats.
Really?
But Fatsco and then Benton Harbor, Michigan. And those are the kind of things people ask, like, do you take donations?
Yeah.
If it helps us tell the story of Benton Harbor, we're interested in it. And that Fatsco stove certainly does that.
So you have that Fatsco
we
stove
have
now?
that. We're going to put it in our Benton Harbor exhibit. So
What kind of condition is it in?
it's in great condition. Cast iron, looks really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you know they made stoves?
I did not. This was news to me. So we're always learning stuff too when people call up and go, hey, I've got this.
So what time frame would that stove have probably been made?
My guess is probably 1920s or 30s.
Okay.
Just judging from looking at it.
I bet there are people out there who are listening right now who have information on Fatsco stoves specifically. So if you have that, I mean, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, or any kind of Fatsco products. Yeah,
Okay.
we've got a archives and research room. We'd love to add more information about Fatsco. Not offensive. It's not offensive.
No, it's not offensive, but I'm stuck on the rat poison that they made.
Yeah.
So that was their primary product?
I don't know about primary, but it's the
one of them.
people seem to know the most about. Like, oh yeah, they had that rat poison. That really worked.
And you're
well.
right. I mean, I don't remember seeing a rat. I've been in DC. You've been in DC. Lots of rats there.
Sure. Yeah.
New York, same thing.
You're talking about little rats in DC?
I'm talking about huge
You're not
rats.
talking about politics.
Well, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good. You've got a speaker series. Well, let's talk about the walking, biking, paddling tours that the Morton House Museum has coming up this year.
Yeah, we've been doing these for a few years, and they've been very popular. We do a kind of a traditional downtown history walking tour, but then we've done some specialty ones. Last year, we did this in conjunction with Historical Society of Michigan. We're doing an art and beer tour where we tour the art and then end up at the livery for a beer if you like.
Love that.
Yep. And then one of our most popular is we're going to do again a 1950s Benton Harbor tour.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah. And so that really kind of shows people what was there in the 1950s, which is really the kind of the heyday of that time. So that's Friday, June 27, and it's going to be in conjunction with the Benton Harbor Art Hop. That night, which is always a great thing. So you can come down and see galleries and eat food, and then you can also take a tour of 1950s Benton Harbor. But drive-in theaters and restaurants and shopping and all that kind of stuff, what was here in the 1950s.
Where was the drive-in theater?
I meant more drive-in to eat.
Oh, drive-in to eat.
So Roxy's was right on Main Street.
Okay.
And I think there was a couple others. If you know... Happy Poochie.
Yep.
Right. That was an eatery way back there in the 1950s. So
was Voice of Music making products at that time?
Yeah, they started kind of late 40s. So the VM Corporation was a big thing. Benton Harbor's biggest employer in the 1950s and 60s.
We've got if you've never been in the radio showroom here at WSJM at the studios of Midwest Family, we have a couple of vintage Voice of Music record players, phonographs.
Wow.
I don't know if you call them phonographs, but they're record players, stereos. There's even a clock on one of the walls. Somebody had kind of cannibalized one of their things and turned it into Voice of Music. So
very cool.
Anyway,
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. And that's what another thing we talked about Clement Construction earlier. I think they're in a building that one of the buildings they have was a former VM.
Yeah, they just 253 park. They just asked us to find some information on that too. That they're
Is that the
doing
one with the
stuff.
beautiful old rafters in it and the
No,
wooden floors?
I
Or
haven't
different
been
building?
inside. It's
Okay.
a small building right behind the Thayer building.
Okay.
Is the one they were
I
asking
think that's the
about.
one. Is the event space that they're looking at?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Could be.
All right. We'll have to get
Yeah.
together on this.
I need to get a tour over there.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
A lot of rats. No rats. No
No
rats.
rats,
No
because
rats.
of Fatsko.
Because of Fatsko. All right. So you've got the walking, biking, paddling tours. Those are coming up. For more information, check out your Facebook page. But you also have a speaker series. Let's run through that.
Yeah. So last Wednesday of the month for all summer. So June, July, and August, we're having a speaker series. So Jeanette Holton, who's a kind of a local historian and activist, she's going to talk about urban renewal, which is frankly the worst thing that ever happened to cities in America. Was
Urban renewal. Talk about that.
See. It's basically let's destroy neighborhoods and just level stuff, and then we're going to build this new stuff, which often wasn't built.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. So they knock down all kinds of historic buildings, and then we just get empty lots.
Yeah.
It's kind of the short history of urban renewal.
Yeah. And it happened in Benton Harbor.
It did, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then in July, Penny Sempert is going to tell us about the life and times of Samuel McGuigan. He's a Irish immigrant who was Benton Harbor's first village president.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we're really excited about Larry Nielsen. I know he's with Twin City Players, and he's a former Benton Township supervisor telling stories. We heard a version of the story last year about growing up in Benton Harbor and how real estate agents kind of tried to flip neighborhoods, turn it from white neighborhoods into black neighborhoods. And that whole transition of the 60s and 70s he's going to talk about.
Okay. Let's see. The recent Hall Park Ox Creek tour. What happened there?
Yeah. So you maybe know that there's a big grant and there's a big project to revitalize Ox Creek.
Yes.
So just last Saturday, they had a cleanup. We picked up a lot of trash, and then they showed us the plans for the revitalization of Hall Park. And I was happy to throw in some historical tidbits about Hall Park, the guy who donated the land, and some of the uses over the years for Hall Park.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Who donated? Yeah,
it's actually confusing because it's right on Hull Avenue, Hull, but it's Hall Park, Hall.
Oh, okay.
And Samuel Hull, Hull, is one of the three founders, but Samuel Hull, Hall, donated the land. And frankly, it's great that he donated the land. Otherwise, he's not that great a person. He was, they called him Benton Harbor's greatest litigationist.
Oh, no.
He sued lots of people sued him. He was always this contentious guy.
Wow.
And apparently very eccentric.
Okay.
And the only really positive thing I could find about his life is he gave the land for Hall Park.
Okay.
And even then, they encourage him to do it while he's alive. He's like, no, I'm giving it. And then, surprisingly, in his will, they're like, he gave the park to Benton Harbor. So
one redeeming quality, he left a park.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, very good. Okay. And then you've got a couple more pieces of information here. And then before we wrap up the interview, we'll get to your 100th birthday celebration.
Yeah.
So open hours.
Yeah, so we're open starting May 17 on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So we really invite people to come and check out the house. So you can see just a great old house if you're into that. We also have two other exhibits. Because we're the home of Benton Harbor history, we have an exhibit on the history of Benton Harbor, all kinds of great information and photographs that you can see. And then upstairs, we have a new exhibit on the Morton family and the Graham and Morton Transportation Company, the steamship line.
Okay.
That came over. So we have a couple other exhibits besides the Little Italy exhibit also to see.
So when you're in the Morton house and you're up on the second floor, if you look out toward the lake, how close did the canal come? The ship canal.
It's about a half a mile down Territorial. There. So
we
have a great view down Territorial.
Yeah.
And there are some stories about that Stanley Morton, who ran the steamship line, he could look from the Morton house and see the ships coming in.
Yeah.
Back then.
I bet that was cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Oh,
so.
All right. We'll conclude this interview in just a moment. We have a couple of messages to get to. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
As you prepare to work in your yard, Aiden's Lands
Okay, this is the behind-the-scenes exclusive content where I figure out if I can fit all of our commercials in before the top of the hour.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I think I can. So how long have you been doing this, Chuck?
So I've been a member of the board since the 1990s. Executive director, this is basically my third year starting this. So
Okay, you enjoying it?
I love it. It's a great thing. Gets me up in the morning and keeps me out of trouble. And so I've said to people, I used to be a history teacher, so now I still get to do history, but I don't have to grade any papers.
I was going to ask you, as a history teacher, you found history as your passion right now. But when you were in Washington, D.C., did you get a lot of time at the museums?
I did, although frankly, my son lives in suburban Washington, D.C. now, and I've been going back the last couple of years to visit him, and he goes off to work, and I go off to the museums and the battlefields and things like that. So,
what's your favorite museum back there? Not that you need a favorite, but...
Yeah, boy, that's a tough one. I love, of course, the American History Museum.
Yeah,
because of history. But also, I'll tell you, the great one it just opened recently is the African American History Museum.
Yeah,
is really amazing. I did that last year when I went to visit my son.
Battlefields, Gettysburg, I assume.
Gettysburg is great. One of the highlights of my life. I got to spend a whole week at Gettysburg.
That's amazing.
It's a teachers' conference and before and after and stuff, but Antietam is good. And I was just this past spring and just in March, and I was at Fredericksburg.
Okay,
which is one
down
of those
south.
where the South has the high ground, and the Union just keeps throwing people all day at people. It's just stupid.
Wow,
kind of thing. But
wow. And what was the prison the most notorious?
Yeah, Andersonville.
Andersonville.
That's down south.
Have you been down there? Okay.
No. And I also visited in Chancellorsville. They have the tomb of Stonewall Jackson's arm.
Oh my, just the arm.
Just the arm. He got shot in the arm. They cut it off and buried it. There's a little tombstone that you can visit for his arm.
That's amazing. We'll be right back. We'll conclude this interview. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
Your local Bryant Factory authorized dealer.
From the Pat Moody Studios, this is WSJM FM Benton Harbor, St. Joseph, a product of Midwest Family Marketing and Media. Proudly serving our community. The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
7:58. Want to thank Chuck Jager, Executive Director of the Morton House Museum, for coming in today. We just have about a minute left, but you wanted to celebrate a special individual.
Yeah, I really want to do a shout out. I'm pretty sure she's listening. Miriam Peedy is the long time. She started with the Morton House in the 1960s, ran the docent program for a long time, has just been a mainstay of the thing. And she is celebrating this summer her 100th birthday, July 13. And so we're going to throw a little party. Nice. She's a former St. Joe High School teacher. So if you remember Mrs. Peedy, you should come out and celebrate. So happy birthday, Miriam.
Miriam Peedy turning 100 in July this year.
Yes.
And the Morton House Museum will be helping her celebrate. Happy 100th.
Yeah, happy 100th.
That's fantastic. Chuck, thank you as always for coming in and sharing the information that you do about our history and what activities you have coming up at the Morton House Museum.
Yeah, come out and see us.
Absolutely. And if you need more information, just check them out. I think Facebook is probably your best bet.
Facebook or mortonhousemuseum.org.
Okay,
Yep.
Very good. Chuck Jager, Executive Director of Morton House Museum. If you missed any part of that interview, you want to go back and get some of the exclusive content that we shared on our video live stream, you can check it out at Facebook or YouTube. Just go to our WSJM page, look at videos. You'll see it right there. Our local news is coming up next. Right now, ABC, it's 8 o'clock.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. New number.